Welcome back, folks, to the random video blog where every single Friday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, run down my rambling thoughts in the wrestling world, share a few stories, etc., etc. And it was quite the week this past week. We had the WWE Draft on Tuesday, as I'll talk about in a few moments. Raw on Monday, the Cruiserweight Classic, Ultimate Lucha 2 Part 3 on Wednesday, along with NXT, SmackDown Live's first episode on Tuesdays, a lot of cool stuff, and a pay-per-view on Sunday to add to all of that in just 48 hours, so looking forward to that. I talked all about it, cheap plug here for Wrestle Rant Radio just yesterday. We moved to Thursdays, new intro, new logo, new day. So be sure to check it out. Wrestle Rant Radio's new episode is up right now. New episode of Wrestle Rant Radio, not Wrestle Rants Radio. Every Thursday, new episodes will be uploaded on the website, nextairwrestling.net. But enough of the cheap plugs for right now. I do want to talk about the ever-asked question on everyone's mind right now, the talk of Twitter throughout the week. Are you Team Raw or are you Team SmackDown Live? Just to kind of sum up my thoughts, basically, in this video blog on the WWE Draft. So, as I talk about every week, sometimes I do have a set topic for these random video blogs, sometimes I don't. Originally, I was going to do my top 5 favorite draft moments, not from this year's installment, but every installment ever. Specifically those that I was a fan for, dating back to 2008, because I was a fan for the 08 draft, 09 draft, 2010 draft, and 2011 draft. But I feel like I already did that. I mean, some of you may be watching, or maybe newer viewers, just from like recent months, weeks, years, whatever. I did a video blog on that, one of the very first random video blogs I did well over 2 years ago in April of 2014. So if you go to the playlist here on the channel of random video blogs, you have to go all the way back, well over 100 episodes ago, talking about my favorite draft memories dating back to 2008. So I feel like I've already done that before. I specifically wanted to talk about this year's installment, this year's WWE Draft, and overall I was pretty happy with it. I mean, anyone who's read my articles, listened to the show from yesterday, probably already knows that my thoughts on it, so I'm not going to analyze every single pick, but and there was a lot of talk throughout the draft about why did this person get drafted before that guy, and I understand that was, rational anger for the most part. I didn't really get too upset over it. There were a few picks like Cesaro under Big Show, like after Big Show, that made no sense to me, or Apollo Crews in the supplemental draft, but you have the fucking Big Show and Del Rio and Sheamus and all these other losers in the main draft, so stuff like that didn't really make much sense to me personally, but overall I was pretty happy with both rosters. I think Raw did get a lot of the star power. I mean, on Raw you have, let's see, to answer the question for me whether I'm Team Raw or Team SmackDown, for me, Raw got obviously Finn Balor, which I was very happy with, also the debuting Nia Jax. They have Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, who doesn't show up too often, but when he does, it's a big deal. They have Rollins, Reigns, Lesnar, Balor, Jericho, Cesaro, Zayn, Owens, Rusev as the U.S. champion, the New Day, Charlotte. So they got a lot of big picks, and even literally in the Big Show, which I don't really care for. But everyone else, though, for the most part, they got a lot of big picks. And it didn't make too much sense to me at the time that they would load all that mid-card talent on Raw. But then looking back on it in retrospect, and of course, Raw has the larger roster because it's 3 hours, which they had to do that. That was one of my big concerns many months ago, was that if Raw's going to be 3 hours, I never really thought about the possibility of making Raw's roster bigger, but that does make a lot more sense because it's 3 hours and not 2. So I'm glad they did that. And also, they need to fill the 3 hours with entertaining people. Like, I don't want to see, like, people on SmackDown. Like, I love Baron Corbin on SmackDown. I love Zack Ryder on SmackDown. I love Apollo Crews on SmackDown, Kalisto, all those guys. But I don't know if they can fill 3 hours on Raw. Like, I don't want to see Kalisto versus Baron Corbin for 20 minutes on Raw, whereas it would be much more effective in 10 minutes or even 5 to 7 minutes on SmackDown. You know what I mean? So I feel like with guys like a lot of the entertaining acts, Enzo and Cass, The Club, all those tag teams, mid-card talent, women, and main event guys ended up on Raw for a reason, because they need to make those 3 hours entertaining. Taking away a lot of the guys like AJ Styles, John Cena, Dean Ambrose. It was a big blow to Monday nights, so they need to fill those 3 hours with entertaining people. So, in retrospect, I'm fine with them filling, with them putting those guys on Raw. Putting the more, not established acts on Raw, because on SmackDown we have Cena and Orton, but putting the guys on Raw that are going to fill the 3 hours in more entertaining fashion. On SmackDown, I really like their roster too. You have, like I said, John Cena, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles. I think Styles will automatically be a top heel in that brand. Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, American Alpha, obviously another huge pick, as they alluded to earlier. Corbin, Crews, Ryder, the Usos. We have a lot of good picks on SmackDown. Becky Lynch, obviously, as well, and a few others, Naomi. So a lot of good picks on SmackDown that I'm very happy with. and I think they can make the most of that roster. So to answer the question whether I'm Team Raw or Team SmackDown, and I feel like I telegraphed this quite a bit in the weeks leading up to the actual draft through my various mock drafts, the podcast, talking about it here on the random video blog. I'm Team SmackDown, or Team SmackDown Live, whatever the hell you want to call it. I unfortunately had to call it SmackDown Live because that's what they're calling it in my reviews and on WrestleRant Radio. It's officially called SmackDown Live, from what I believe. But I'll just call it SmackDown for the sake of, not being annoying in this random video blog. So I'm Team SmackDown. I've always been a big SmackDown guy, and I think, especially this year, I think I've been more of a SmackDown guy this year than any other year since I've been a fan. Maybe back in 2011. In 2011, SmackDown was on frickin' fire with Christian, Randy Orton, Sheamus, Mark Henry, and a number of others, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and a great stacked roster back, at that point in time. He had a lot of great talent on the roster back in 2011. And after that point, I feel like that really kind of fell off the deep end. After the Super Show gimmick debut, the show really became shit and was unwatchable. Up until this year, I would say, even before the draft was even conceived, even before the brand split idea was announced many months ago, Tom and I, Tommy Sharp, my brother Tom, we've been talking all about it on WWEC Radio all year long, how SmackDown has been, to me, my favorite wrestling program of, I'm going to be writing an article about this at some point, but my favorite wrestling program of 2016. NXT is always awesome, but it's still developmental territory at the end of the day. Lucha Underground has been really good, not quite as great as Season 1, but still a great show. I enjoy Raw, I enjoy Ring of Honor. TNA's also stepped it up quite a bit this year, but hands down, and this might be weird to say, but SmackDown has been my favorite wrestling show in 2016. With the new commentary, the new renewed focus on the wrestling. It may not have, before the draft anyway, been not have too huge on storyline progression, stuff like that, but we would still get some really, really good matches. AJ Styles and Kevin Owens, AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. We had Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins for the first time ever in WWE on the show many weeks ago. We've had Ambrose and Rollins. We've had many other great matchups. Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose, Jericho and Sami Zayn. So we've had a lot of great matches on SmackDown all year round, and I feel like people weren't really paying that much attention to the show. Brock Lesnar was on the show twice earlier this year for the first time in well over a decade. I was at SmackDown right before WrestleMania. The real last SmackDown. The last SmackDown before Mania is usually like 2 squash matches because it's taped before Raw. I was at the last real SmackDown before Mania back in Boston with RG, and we had a great time. I really, really enjoyed that show. And I think, and we had Charlotte on Banks in that episode that I went to, Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, the episode that I went to back in March. So, I feel like this draft only reinforces the fact that SmackDown will be the wrestling show. Cesaro alluded to it during his shoot promo, presumably is that what it was, on the WWE Network following the draft on Tuesday night. He cut a great promo about how he wanted to be on SmackDown because he feel like that's the real wrestling show and how his style would kind of add to that blue brand. So, I don't know, maybe he will end up on SmackDown before long anyway. But I think overall the draft came out really, really well. I love SmackDown's roster. I love Raw's roster. The pay-per-view on Sunday should be really, really good, although there are a lot of brand extension draft implications and ramifications, whatever, coming out of it, like what brand will the mid-card titles end up on? What brand will the world title end up on? As of right now, as apparently, according to what I heard yesterday from, I think it might have been Brian Alvarez of PW Insider or something like that. I forgot who mentioned it, but that there won't be a second world title. So that's interesting. I feel like we will get a second world title at some point, but then why call it just the WWE Championship if you're not going to, you know what I mean? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But also, spoiler alert, it was reported yesterday that Rhino and probably at some point, Rhino and Kurt Hawkins might be on their way back to WWE, and I would love to see them on SmackDown as well as mid-card talent. Rhino's always been enjoyable to me. I've always enjoyed him in NXT and beyond. And Kurt Hawkins was never really got a fair shake in WWE during his previous run when he broke off on his own after the whole Edgeheads thing kind of disbanded back in 2009. So I look forward to those guys in SmackDown, hopefully SmackDown and just in WWE in general. But I'm a SmackDown Live guy. I'm a SmackDown guy. Certainly blue brand for life. So I look forward to seeing how SmackDown kind of plays out in the weeks and months to come. But I will be at Raw. Although I love SmackDown, I will be at Raw. Coming out of SummerSlam in a few more months, or actually a month from today, I'll be at Raw in Brooklyn, so I look forward to that. SmackDown will be in Connecticut the very next day, but I'm already going to take over SummerSlam and Raw. so it wouldn't make sense to. I mean, I guess not that it wouldn't make sense, but I feel like I'm already going to be dead for 3 days in a row and going to 3 wrestling shows, so I don't really want to go to SmackDown 2, although it's the most convenient in being at Mohegan Sun. But anyway, so I'm a SmackDown guy. I would love to know what show you guys ended up on. Are you Team Raw? Are you Team SmackDown? Are you Team NXT? What show are you guys? I would love to know in the comments section down below, on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Matthews. All the links are down below in the description box. Like I said, guys, one last street plug. I apologize for the shameless advertisements. Be sure to check out WrestleRant Radio every Thursday now on nextairwrestling.net. New episodes will be uploaded. Really good episode this past week, talking all about Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Cruiserweight Classic, the Ultimate Lucha Dose, Part 3 from Lucha Underground from Wednesday night, the WWE Draft, and Battleground predictions, and everything else that went down in the week in wrestling this past week. So, again, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the draft as much as I did, if not more. And I want to hear from you folks down below in the comment section, all over social media. Are you Team Raw or are you Team SmackDown? So until next time, guys, next week we will be bringing you another random video blog right here on the channel. What it will be about, I have no idea. Only time will tell. But be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is amazingly appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.